Good afternoon, ladies and gents. Is it afternoon? No, not yet. Bloody hell, I've managed to get out before lunchtime. You join me today on a sadly very gloomy day in northern Germany as I head out to have a little bit of a chat with you about how I feel about the Michelin Road 5 tyres now that my set have finally reached the end of their lives. A full 2 seasons ago, I fitted a set of Michelin Road 5 tyres onto my bike, kindly provided to me free of charge by Michelin, full disclosure, and in that time I've managed to get quite a lot of stuff in, to be fair. I mean, among other ordinary day-to-day life kind of stuff, I also in the first year took a tour all the way from Germany down to Switzerland, spent a week in Switzerland with my fellow video creationist Smokey Bar, and then the following year, so second season on these tyres, I then rode all the way to the UK, all the way up the UK, into Scotland, did the NC 500 but an extended version of that. Now obviously for both of these tours there are videos, check the links in the top right to see those. Shameless plugs. And then obviously rode back down through the UK, back up to Germany again. Now I'm not going to go into too much detail about that first tour because there is already a video about that which was made just after the Switzerland tour. But as I left to go to Scotland, the tyres already had just over 8,000 kilometres on them, and naturally having gotten used to the Michelin M7RRs that I had on the bike when I got it, I was starting to feel a bit nervous that with 8,000 kilometres on them already, there was the slim chance they might not make the tour. Well, surprise, surprise, here we are, 8.5, 9 months later, and I've still got the same tyres on the bike. I mean, let's be honest, with the whole pandemic crisis that's hit us lately, too much work and crappy weather, I haven't had a huge amount of riding obviously over the winter and then beginning with the spring, so that 8.5 months might not be a really accurate representation if you're using your bike often, but still, kilometre wise, I put these tyres on the bike with 38,800 kilometres, give or take the odd handful, and now the bike is on 50,980. So do some quick maths, add the 3, carry the 2, divided by 5 little monkeys, means that we've got 12,200 kilometres, probably going to get a good 100 or 2 out of this ride today. So to be honest, pretty impressive. A set of sports touring tyres lasting 2 whole seasons, 2 whole tours, and not short tours either, because Hamburg is properly up there in Germania. So it takes me about 1,000 kilometres to get to the UK. It also takes me about 1,000 kilometres to get to the Alps. So before I've even started, and out of something like a set of Michelin M7RRs, that would have already been a quarter of the life of the tyre gone just to get to the place you go into. Oh, take this opportunity to offload my consignment of ANDYMAN cam stickers. So here we go, folks. They're on the way to you. Wonderful, wonderful uptake on the new stickers already. I know I haven't put a video out about them yet, but that will come very shortly. But yeah, huge thanks to you guys that have ordered already for your support. Anyway, with that out of the way, let's get on and talk more about some tyres. But of course, mileage is only half the equation. Is it half? More important mileage? Or, I don't know. Anyway, performance is the other side of the equation, however you want to divide it up, whichever is more important to you. How have the tyres performed? Obviously, again, the first 5,000 kilometres, check out the video in the top right to see how they were in that stage. Since then, Michelin even say themselves that the tyre performs almost as good as new, even when they've got 5,000 kilometres on them. Which I guess means if you read between the marketing lines, they expect that after 5,000 kilometres, they're going to expect the performance to start to deteriorate. And to be honest, it's what we all expect, isn't it? The tyres perform their best when they're new, and then as your profile reduces, the performance goes down. And obviously at the very end of their life, that's when you get the whole 50 pence feeling, when you come into a corner and you've got the flat bit in the middle and then you get to the edge and you roll off the edge of that corner. Well, I have to say that even with 12,000 kilometres, these tyres just don't feel old. They tip into the corner really well, to be fair. Not really as well as they have any right to, considering they've had so many motorway miles on them. Because like I said, I've been riding at least 1,000 miles in a straight line. So not miles, kilometers, sorry. Let's not confuse the international punchline here. Oh, look at that blue sky. Definitely going in the right direction. So I would have expected the tyres to have squared off a lot more. I mean, obviously we'll stop in a second and have a good look at the shape of the actual profile and a look at how the tread is worn. But they still feel nice and round. No obvious flat spots anywhere, to be fair. And despite having tyres which I'm going to swap after this ride, you just wouldn't notice. But of course, the road is completely bone dry. Would it be a different story if it was soaking wet? Seeing as the tyres are very much near the end of their lives. To that I would say I really don't think so. When I was in Scotland, so that means all of the kilometres between 8,000 and about 11,000. So if you haven't seen the tour, I implore you to go and watch it, and I promise, I think I could stop talking now and that series alone would convince you that the wet weather performance of these tyres is quite simply astonishing. And for the whole life of the tyre too, because as I said, I went to Scotland feeling like the tyres were getting very close to the end of their life, and I was ready to replace them while I was in the UK, should it have been necessary. But they just quite simply performed. There are droves of comments about how both me and my stepdad Ian, who was also rocking a set of Road 5 tyres, were bombing along at a fair old lick, despite the fact that it was shedding it down with rain from start to finish, and the roads were all completely saturated. But despite that, we were able to really make some progress and have a properly enjoyable ride. Yeah, you might want to not cut the corner when someone's coming the other way, chaps. So yeah, in unimaginably moist weather on incredibly varied road surfaces and incredibly varied road conditions, we had some crazy pothole action, there was ridiculous off-camber nonsense, we had the twistiest, smallest, windiest roads you could imagine, particularly going over the Balachnabar, the Applecross Pass. And despite all of that, we were able to press on, have a spirited ride. I mean, I'm not saying we were being stupid, we weren't trying to get a knee down or anything, but the point I'm trying to make is that the inclemency of the weather didn't restrict us in any way, other than the fact that our pants got wet. I absolutely love that little section of road, so I'm going to do that again. And then obviously, if the shape of the profile of the tyre now is still round, it's still enjoyable to ride, then the same rings true throughout the entire Scotland tour. So if I was faced with the same situation again, I've got 8,000 kilometres, I want a set of Road 5s and I want to go into the Alps or something for a tour, I would happily do that and not be at all worried about the tyres not making the tour, because they've just shown me that they can. And in light of all of this gushing, I want to make absolutely clear, Michelin gave me the tyres for free, but they have paid me not one single penny to say that I like them. If I'd have thought they were crap, I promise I would have said that they were crap. But they're just not. They have given me mile after mile of incredibly enjoyable riding through pretty much all of the conditions you could imagine except for snow. And they've still got enough rubber left to give it a bit of beans in the bendies. Now obviously no review is complete without at least a couple of negatives, you know, a few things to put everything into perspective. The only problem is I'm kind of struggling to really think of any. I mean, obviously there is the cost. I mean, they are definitely at the top end of the price bracket. I was looking just yesterday at how much they were going to cost to replace them with the same tyres, and it's looking like it's going to be about 250 euros, so all in about 280 to 300 euros fitted for a pair. That's on loose wheels. But obviously to that you could say, if you were to divide the cost across the mileage, then these tyres would probably work out much cheaper than a lot of alternatives. Another negative, something I did notice a lot more with these tyres than I've noticed with anything else, then it was quite good as well that in Scotland I could follow behind someone with the same tyres as I've got, because we both noticed that these tyres throw up a lot of stones. Seems like all those extra sipes, all those extra water pooling reservoirs do like to grab the chunks of rock up and throw them at the bike behind. And it wasn't like we were being constantly peppered, but there were definitely more stones being thrown up behind a Road 5 wearing bike than anything else I've seen. Otherwise, the only other negative that I can think of, which obviously we'll get a better look at in a minute when we stop and have a proper look, and this is the first time I've ever known this to happen as well with a set of tyres in 14 years I've been riding a bike now, and that is that the front has worn out a lot quicker than the back. I mean, obviously a lot of that can be put down to my riding style. Maybe I'm too heavy on the brakes, maybe I'm too gentle on the throttle, maybe it's because my bike has a bit of a bias towards weight on the front wheel. I think it's about 52% front, 48% rear. All of these things play a part, but still, I've never known for a front tyre to wear out faster than a back tyre. Maybe that's just because that's what happens. That's the incredible voodoo-like grip that I've been getting out of the front tyre in all conditions. It comes at the expense perhaps of a slightly softer compound. You know, I'm not saying like the rear tyre's got 5,000 Ks left and the front is shot. It's nothing like that, but they're pretty close. I think the rear has probably got 0.5 millimetre before we get to the wear indicators, and the front, once we get to the end of this ride, will 100% be on the wear indicators. And then finally, just a real tiny small niggle really. It's just the fact that the way that they've worn, you can very, very clearly see the dividing line between the compounds of the dual compound mix of the tyre. That's purely a visual thing because the compounds are so different. You've got the carbon black on the shoulders and you've got the ordinary silica-rich rubber on the middle, and they just have a slightly different colour. That's all that is. It's just something perhaps worth mentioning. That's cool. If I were ever to have a camper van. Overall, I have no feeling that I'm riding on old tyres. I've not been touching it up on the acceleration. I've not been touching it up on the braking. I mean, this hasn't been the most spirited of rides. We're not in the mountains or anything, but it's just reassuring that I'm not giving it any thoughts. I'm not having to worry about the fact that I've got to nurse the tyres around for the last few kilometres of their life. It seems like they're giving it all right up to the limit. My, what a shiny, shiny roof you have. Just going out to polish the roof, love. Right then, let's find somewhere to stop, have a closer look at these tyres so you can see how they've worn, what they look like now that they're at the end of their exceptionally long and happy life. Right then, so here we are parked up. Let's have a closer look at these tyres, shall we? As you can see, we're getting pretty low. I mean, there's a little bit more than I thought there was actually, but we are very, very close to those wear indicators. This is the rear, of course, just in case you didn't catch that, but nothing particularly odd, nothing that stands out as being weird about how the tyre was worn. All in all, I'm pretty impressed. It's pretty even wear. And if we look up at the profile of the tyre, it's really none too shabby. No hugely obvious squaring off. We've still got nice round shoulders. There's a tiny little bit of a flat spot in the middle, but bearing in mind the amount of motorway mileage I've done, to be said, that's pretty impressive. And here on the side, there you can see the difference in colour that I mentioned just between the two compounds. I mean, this is of course exaggerated by the fact that there's like dusty gravelly stuff that I've had to drive up. I've tried to brush it off as best I can, but in any case, to be honest, I think even though I'm planning to change these tyres pretty much when I get home, I think there's at least another couple of 1,000 kilometres in these. Now on the front, of course, as I said, it's a little bit different, especially on the corners there. You can see that corner's turned up nicely there. And obviously I've done a lot more right-hand bends than I have left-hand bends because we're pretty much down to the wear indicator on the right, and the left's still got a tiny little bit left over. And then if we check out the profile of these, you can see, as I said, there's a little bit more chamfering going on the shoulders, but obviously they're doing most of the cornering action, so it's not a huge surprise. And I have to say, it's not something I've been able to feel in riding the bike, but you can clearly see a little bit of an edge forming about here. But again, considering these tyres have got 12,000 kilometres on them, I'm really, really quite impressed with how they look and how they still feel on the bike. So, with the close-up look done, let's get back on and finish this little video off. So there you go, that is the end of my 3-part review of the Michelin Road 5 Sport Touring tyre. A hearty 100% recommended stamp from ANDYMAN Cam on these tyres. They've been fantastic and they've given me performance that I felt that I can rely upon from start to finish in all conditions. I literally cannot recommend them enough. They're easily the best tyres I've ever had on any bike, bar none. Otherwise, any recommendations for tyres that you think I should go for to follow these, please do leave a comment underneath. Or if there are any tyres that you desperately want to see reviewed, leave a comment underneath again, and I'll see what I can do. No promises, but who knows. As I'm going to be buying the next set myself, the cost does have to come into play, sadly, a little bit. And to end, thank you so very much for watching. If you've enjoyed this video, do give it a like. It means a lot to the channel. If you didn't like it, unlike to your heart's content. Is it unlike or dislike? And of course, the other two parts of this little series are still available, so if you haven't seen them, get yourself along for the full picture. Spoiler alert, I like them then too. If you're not already, get yourself subscribed to the channel. Click the little bell thingy to make sure you don't miss out on any new videos. There's a lot of people slipping through the net when new stuff comes out lately. Other than that, keep yourself safe, keep your bike shiny, keep you and your loved ones healthy. And I will see you next time. Ta-ra!